Peace and love, family. Welcome back to the channel, Making African Americans Great Again Indefinite. I want to talk to y'all tonight about some of the things that plague us as African Americans and a nurtured descent. In psychology, it's the debate that is as old as the subject of psychology itself. Human nature versus human nurture. I found this pretty interesting because a few years ago, when my wife and I was dating before we got married, a couple of years before we got married actually, she was in college, she was attending school, and for her to complete a nursing program, she took basic psychology. And I remember one night I had got off work around 6 that evening, and one of the things we would do is we'd do her homework together, or I'd help her with her homework, keep her motivated while she was going through classes and working. I remember it being a question she asked me. She's like, what's the difference between human nature and human nurturing? That baffled me. And little did I know that that question itself was going to set me on a track to just start uncovering all types of things. So the difference is, human nature is something you're born with. You instinctively do certain things. You instinctively like a certain type of person. You instinctively, I don't know. Your nature makes you who you are. Nurturing, well, that's how you've been molded. In other words, for human nurture, if I take a child and I raise that child up to eat maggots, and I start that child at an early age eating maggots, well, by the time that child is 15, 16 years old, you try to give that child a steak or a hamburger, they're going to look at you like you're stupid. They're going to look at you like, hey, man, what's wrong with eating maggots? That's the number one meal of the day. That's nurturing. They've been nurtured into believing that. They've been nurtured into behaving that way. And that's the difference between the two. Human nature is the way we naturally act. Human nurture is a way that we've been programmed to act. Which brings me to black people, my people as a whole. There was a time when we were the most peaceful people on this earth. We appreciated the land. We got along with our neighbors. And even in dispute, we handled those situations honorably. In the early days, in the prophets of the motherland, if two tribes went to war with one another, yes, according to the politics of war, you took prisoners. The losing side ended up relinquishing a lot of prisoners. But what would happen with those prisoners were, if my tribe caught members of your tribe, I didn't take you home and beat you and cut your feet off and drain your blood and kill you. You essentially became a part of my family, but as a servant. You may have been a 16 or 17-year-old boy, and you got caught in the confines of war. Wherever you ended up, whatever family took you usually took care of you. You may have even eventually married a daughter or a cousin or something of that family that you had been taken to. Bottom line is, even in defeat, we treated each other with respect. Then the slave trade happened. And our people sold our other people to the white man and European settlers all across the nation. They would come over to do business, and they ended up leaving with slaves. However, the way Europeans treated slaves and the way Africans treated slaves were totally different. We would go on to learn through history itself that the Europeans were real cruel. They just real vicious. The worst of the worst treatment. Worse than anything you could ever imagine. That started what we know today as the North Atlantic slave trade. And consequently today, a lot of us, some of us, are descendants of slaves here in America today. Now, once slavery ended, African Americans were dispatched out. A lot of us couldn't go work for white people because white people wanted to give jobs to other white people. Nobody wanted to establish, nobody wanted to give wealth to blacks. So what do? Well, we did what any resilient race would do. We started our own. Segregation was real. Whites weren't allowed in the blacks. Well, whites could go wherever they wanted, but most often, whites didn't really come on the black side of town, and blacks definitely weren't allowed with whites. Once this happened, black people started their own nightclubs, their own bars, eventually their own banks, movie theaters, you name it, they done it. You heard me reference Black Wall Street a lot on this channel, and I'll continue to do that. It was a lot of places like Black Wall Street all over America. Well, over time, the illusion of inclusion, that got us. Wanting to be treated as equals, wanted to be right. And it's nothing wrong with the dream that King had. You know, I still respect the man. I still think he was a good visionary, but I don't think he realized what consequences his vision would bring. And I'm not racist at all, but I will go on to say this, and I believe it wholeheartedly. The worst thing that could have ever happened to us as black people was desegregation. Because when we were segregated, at least we learned to be self-sufficient. At least we had our own. Once segregation came, that afforded white society two things. First off, middle-class white families ended up going up the chain. They ended up going up the food chain to being basically wealthy. Because now you introduce a new class of individual who can't get credit at the bank. They don't really have, the laws are not in their favor. We introduced blacks into society, and we were basically treated like crap. You got treated like crap just to have a seat on the floor, not at the table. You got treated like crap just to get a seat on the floor, and a lot of blacks respond with that. They felt like instead of eating at a black establishment now, I'm welcome to go to the white spot where they spit in my food and they treat me like shit, but at least I'm over here eating with the white man. The illusion of inclusion made our people feel accepted. But at the end of the day, it was just an illusion. That's all it was. So back in the Black Wall Street days, black people dressed with pride. They carried themselves with pride. We acted like people with pride. However, once we got included into white society and they built neighborhoods specifically for black people, I mean, just look at the Cabrini Green projects and any of those other living establishments in Chicago, Detroit, and all those other inner cities that's democratically ran. All that did is put black people in a position where the poverty-stricken, the poorest of the poor, somebody got to take control of the bottom of the barrel, right? This is introduction to gangs and drug dealers, all this stuff. So if you're looking at where I'm coming from slavery to Black Wall Street to even right now, our people have descended. Like we drop lower and lower and lower. The media is also used to promote us as criminals, thugs, gangsters, hyper aggressive, lazy, ignorant, lack of understanding. We don't take care of our children. This is what the media will have you believe. But we know this to be untrue. If we truly make up 13% of the United States, how do we account for 60% of all crimes committed every year? The numbers don't add up. I don't want to hear that per capita crap. That's all crap. It don't add up. Long story short is, as black people, we've been nurtured into descending. We've been taught. For example, it's not in your nature to go on the corner, sell dope, join gangs, listen to rap music, talk ignorant, call women out of their names. It's not in our nature to do that. It is in our nurturing, though. And this is how I came up with my thesis on hip hop induced stupidity. Hip hop definitely induces stupidity, and it's a big business. And the reason why hip hop is a big business is because somewhere in America right now, in the private prison system, there are a few white men sitting at a table. One has land, but no money. The other one has an idea and no money and no land. And then there's one, he's got all the money in the world, he just wants a new investment. And they say, hey, look, my research analysts say that in the next 10 years, this amount of African-American men are going to go to prison because, well, hey, 50% of them don't even graduate high school now. And another 25% stop going to school after 9th grade. So out of those 25% that stop going to school, we'll get at least 50% of that. 50% of them going to prison. We need to start building prisons to house these guys. And it's been proven time and time again that it's a lot of money in the private prison industry. Yours truly, number 23, Michael Jordan, it's been said that he invests in a prison industrial complex, which is a reason why I don't understand why black people support him so much. At any rate, when your favorite rapper says, I got every pair of Jordans that ever came out, all this does is it makes the masses go out and buy these shoes and support this guy who doesn't give two craps about your young men and women ended up in prison. It's sad, but the only way for us to come out of this is for us to acknowledge that we've fallen far, to start distincting ourselves and distancing ourselves from those blacks who don't want to get on board. It's a lot of blacks saying they woke, but I'm here to tell you, you're not. You're lucid dreaming. You think you woke. And I'll say this 1,000 times on this channel. It's other videos where you'll hear this. You can't tell me that you woke if you're a black man still calling another black man the N-word. You can't tell me you woke if every time you turn around, you talking in rap colloquialisms. And you know what I mean. B-ass, bitch-ass nigga, hold this, fuck nigga that, fuck boy this, fuck girl that. You're not woke if you're still using those terms, especially when it comes to describing your own people. You're not woke. You're not woke if you approaching 40 and you still trying to say, listen to my mixtape. And believe it or not, I know guys like that. The 40-year-old rapper. Every single one of y'all know him. Guys still chasing those dreams, those ambitions. I used to want to play NFL football. In high school, I was good. I played at a Texas high school. I was amongst the cream of the crop in high school. Got to college, not so much. It taught me a lesson. It taught me there's going to always be somebody out there bigger, better, more suited to play that position than you. It's the same thing with the rap industry. We got millions of young brothers beating the door to try to get in. Only a few are accepted. And once they get in there, they're not really making any positive changes. They're not trying to talk positivity to the community. They all get in and the first thing they do is drench themselves with jewelry, gold chains and teeth. And they kill each other over this crap. Black men killing other black men over things that go shiny and sparkle. I remember one time, I was about 17, 19, somewhere in there. My grandfather, well actually, I was 17 because my grandfather was dead by the time I got 19. Long story short, I got on this gold, chain. I think I paid like $250 for it. And, I thought I was the man. I got this gold chain on, I got the earrings on, and my grandfather was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Man, Grandpa, this is cool. This is how people in my generation dress." He said, "Boy, you ever wonder why a lot of white people call black people monkeys?" Probably because they're jealous. I don't know. He showed me a picture of this monkey that had jewelry on it. And he was like, they say if you take a monkey, give him something shiny, put him in front of water, he'll stare at that shiny object in his hand or on whatever place you place that shiny object on his body. For example, if you give him a gold necklace, he will sit there and he will look in the water at that necklace all day long. He's distracted by that. So if something was to come up behind him, threaten his life and kill him, he'd never see it coming because he's so busy distracted by the shiny things. And he told me that story. Needless to say, it didn't register with me at 17. But by the time I got 19, I started seeing what he was talking about. And whatever happened to that $250 chain, you guessed it, somebody stole it. Never knew who did it, had suspicions, never knew who did it. After about 6 months of it being gone, I didn't care about it no more. It was what it was. Guess what I never did again? If you said, I bet you never bought another chain, you're right, I didn't. Now when I see it, when I see your favorite rappers, the Migos and all these, Floyd Mayweather, all these athletes who like to indulge in this hip-hop image, this hip-hop lifestyle, when I see these things now, I think about the story my grandfather told me about the monkey. When I see Gucci Mane and I'm just looking like, you guys are ignorant. You guys are extremely ignorant. And this is why in 10 years or 5 years after the career fizzled out, you'll look up and they'll be broke. They'll be broke. Won't have a pot to piss in or window to toss it out of. Sad, y'all. It's sad. Nobody's trying to establish generational wealth. You know? Look at the rapper Future. He got like 9 kids and steadily having more. When it's all said and done and his career is up, he's been milked bone dry. All he's going to be able to talk about is coulda, woulda, shoulda. I used to be. At any rate, I'm going to be dropping my audiobook on a nurtured descent and hip-hop induced stupidity real soon. I'm hoping to build my channel and let it grow. I know everybody don't like the things I talk about, and that's fine, I understand. It is kind of discouraging to come and talk and pour my heart out in commentary and not get any views, but I understand you got to start somewhere. So for anybody out there listening, thank you for supporting my channel. It's only going to get better. Greatness is in all of us. We just have to ascend to it. Until next time, I'm signing off.